Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got some guests joining us today. We have Jessica Jackson and Lewis Reed. Welcome.
Hey.
Now, you're from Reform Alliance.
Jessica's the CAO of the Reform Alliance.
CAO and COO. She got two
I got a
titles.
promotion.
Oh, okay. Big boss, big boss.
So for people that don't know, what is Reform Alliance?
So the Reform Alliance is a bipartisan organization that's basically working to get people off probation, off parole, off supervision, and out of the system back on their feet.
So people see Meek Mill, they see Jay-Z, and they do incredible work, but these are people that really make things go behind the scenes.
You said it.
Only because they make it possible.
That's right. Now, Jessica, you were actually a mayor, too. You were a politician, right? You were a mayor
in Mill Valley,
Mill Valley.
California.
Yeah. So how did you make that transition?
So I actually got into this work because I was personally impacted by the justice system. I found myself at 22 holding my 2-month-old daughter while I watched my husband get sentenced to 15, serve 6 down in Georgia. Wow. At the time, I had nothing but my GED, and I basically got angry enough to go to college and law school and become a public defender. The mayor work was sort of a detour along the way, but I loved local government, and now I'm excited because I get to work on local, state, and federal government work.
Why not stay in politics? What creates more change?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's better to be the stick than the piñata.
Ooh, break that down.
You know, there's a lot that goes on when you're in politics, and there's a lot of factors that constrain you. When you're an advocate, when you're on the outside, you can say anything you want to say. You can, get a whole bunch of organizations together. You can build coalitions. You can work with people on the ground. You can really ignite the grassroots power, bring all that power that's in the people to change the policies. And I like that a lot better than just sitting there and being confined by, whatever the agenda was that our staff had and that was going on in town.
Dope.
I have a question about the Reform Alliance. So a lot of people on the government side, and maybe this doesn't have nothing to do with you guys, so maybe you can explain a little bit, but they are pretty upset right now with a lot of things that's going on. People committing crimes, and they come out the next day. And they say a lot of that is because of Reform Alliance.
Or the bail reform.
Who's saying that a lot of that is because of Reform Alliance?
Right.
Yeah.
They're saying a lot of that is because, so a lot of people come right out and they do the same crimes, and they're coming right out, and they're saying a lot of that is due to that. Is that any of the things that you guys advocate or no?
Look, I would say that entire premise is false because people coming out of the system today who got locked up yesterday, got locked up last week, that's an indictment of the current system. We're fighting for reforms to that system, right? We want to transform what's going on in our justice system. We want a system that's going to address the underlying reasons why people are committing crime in the first place, right? Poverty, mental health issues, substance abuse issues. We've got to fix all of that. We haven't gotten to that point yet. So yes, somebody who got locked up 10 years ago gets out tomorrow is probably going to have a really hard time coming home because we haven't built the road for them to succeed yet. That's what we're working on.
I don't think they were talking long term. I think they were talking more short term. They were saying, I read something in the paper that, like, say people get locked up for robbery, and they go in jail. There's no bail. They come out the next day, and then they rob somebody again or wind up shooting somebody the next day. And they said that person should have been in jail, but because of new rules and regulations, people are coming back on the street more and more and more, and there's no consequences to their actions.
But you got to look at what's fueling those crimes in the first place, because a lot of them are being driven by mental health issues. A lot of them are being driven by substance abuse. Right now, the only tools we have as a society, if somebody has a mental health issue or a substance abuse issue, is to call 911, to get the cops involved, to put them in jail. That's not where we should be dealing with these systemic issues, right? So we're using our jails and prison systems to treat systemic issues that have not been dealt with yet by society. That's what we've got to work on. So if somebody's coming home tomorrow because they got locked up today, they had a mental health issue, they committed a robbery, then that just shows that the current system is not working and we need more change.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think reform is just here to just get people out of jail, but that's not what all y'all do.
Our main focus is probation, parole, supervision. I got to say, most recently we've started these job fairs. This is huge. We did the one with Rock
Philly.
Nation in Madison Square Garden. We did one in Philly. We've got one coming up in Atlanta. Super, super exciting stuff. We're able to actually get people not just jobs, but we've got, mental health professionals there. We've got resume support.
We
We've got
give people over
barbers.
1,000 pardons, well, not pardons, but expungements.
Yeah.
People had access to that. So this is something that is extremely necessary.
Do you work internationally as well, or no?
Nope, we're just working in the U.S. right now. So much stuff to be done here.
I want to ask about that, right? Because we saw President Biden recently say that, Brittany Griner's sentence in Russia was unacceptable. Totally understand that. But he's also a person who said that nobody should be in jail for marijuana. And he said he wanted to expunge, everybody's records, pardon people that were in prison. Is that something that reform will be pushing on? Because I feel like that's something that can be done right now. He could do mass clemency and pardon everybody on a federal level that's locked up for a marijuana-only offense.
And he absolutely should. But you've got a White House that, in the beginning of the White House wasn't even letting people work there who had smoked marijuana
right.
in the last 7 years,
That's
right? So what politicians say on the campaign trail doesn't always match what happens when they get into office. And 100%, we're pushing for expungements. We're pushing for people to get mass clemency, not just for marijuana, right? People should be able to come home and get back on their feet and not have a criminal record holding them back and not be stuck under supervision, which is just designed to cycle them back into the system for the rest of their lives.
Which is wild because he said that, and then Amon Shumpert just gets arrested for having a small amount of marijuana.
Well, he had 6 ounces, but he still shouldn't have been arrested.
Yeah, but he had it in his bag. But yet we're talking about expunging people's records. But he wasn't. We know he wasn't distributing. We know he wasn't selling. He probably carried it on his trip, But he still got arrested for that, and people are still getting arrested for the same thing,
Yeah, I saw an Instagram post, a picture of a guy the other day who had served 30 years for selling marijuana, and he's standing right next to a billboard out on the street that says, "Cannabis, we deliver." Right? So we've got to address this, and I think this administration needs to step up and be leaders on the issue.
Now, let's talk about this major public safety reform that will reduce Florida's probation population while increasing safety and opportunity.
Yes.
There's a bill y'all got passed.
So exciting news. We were able...
Sounds like you've been studying and doing your research.
Despite these crazy political times, reform has had a lot of success, and a lot of that is because of our incredible board. We've got such variety in terms of perspectives there, but we've been able to create a pathway for 650,000 people to come home who are on supervision.
Say that one more time for the people in the back, Jessica.
650,000 people to get off of supervision, to come home if they're incarcerated, and to move on with their lives. And part of that is our Florida bill. So we just passed a bill down in Florida almost unanimously, and it was signed into law by Governor DeSantis, who might be running for president. But basically, it shortens your probation if you've got a job, shortens your probation if you're getting your education, working on yourself, and it creates remote reporting. So, and Lewis can speak to this better than I can, but, a lot of the time you're on probation, you've got somebody showing up at your job, making sure you're there, showing up at your house, scaring your kids. This allows you just to do the remote check-ins, not have to deal with that person, not have to leave work, drive across town to meet with them. So it's huge.
Yeah, everything everything that Jessica said. But look, the win in Florida and the win everywhere that we have, it's about people. It's really about the people. It's about the people who have been justice impacted. As somebody who served 14 years in federal prison, having been on federal supervision and state supervision, I know what it's like, exactly what Jessica's talking about. When you're literally trying to work, you're trying to be pro-social, you're trying to show up the way that society wants you to show up, but yet and still in the middle of your shift you have a probation officer with state officer emblazed on the back of their nylon jacket showing up to do a quote-unquote job check on you, right? So one of the things that this bill is going to do is just reduce that stigma and allow people to just be re-engaged the way that we're supposed to be re-engaged in society from a human perspective. And this win in Florida, it was really, really, really about the coalition, but for the most part, it's about the people. It's about the people who've been impacted. And to get a win in Florida, I mean, we're talking about Florida. To get a win in Florida, I think that really says something when we have a near unanimous a bill that was passed.
How are y'all able to get Republicans to be on board with stuff like that, but Democrats in the House can't?
We got Jessica.
No, but this isn't just a one-time transaction, right? Like, we have spent years building relationships with these folks. We did the bipartisan summit, Cup 50, which was led by Van Jones. We did that bipartisan summit back in 2015. People thought we were crazy to have the Koch brothers on stage with, the ACLU folks. They said we were sellouts for having Newt Gingrich there. We went on to work on the First Step Act. People couldn't believe we would dare step inside that Trump White House. But after years and years and years of showing up, building these relationships, speaking their language, talking about redemption, talking about the fiscal responsibility, talking about the bloated system that is our prison system and the government waste, the fiscal waste, we were able to really break through and work together.
And the other thing about a Charlamagne is that it takes bipartisan language in order to be able to get some breakthrough, in order to get, break that log jam. And it took both parties to put us in this issue. And it's going to take actually both parties to get us out of this issue.
I agree. I always wondered, does it even benefit the government to do anything in regards to reform, whether it's prison reform, criminal justice reform, because we know prisons are big businesses too. So, they make money based off how many people they can incarcerate.
Well, prison is not a big business. The criminal justice system overall is a big business. Everyone is benefiting except the person who is basically incarcerated, right? We get maximum time for the minimal offenses, especially black, brown, and poor white folks.
That's
The
right.
bail bondsmen, they benefit. The attorneys benefit. The commissary vendors benefit. The correctional officers benefit. They retire with a 401 K and pensions and all of this other stuff.
Private prisons, though.
Yeah, private prisons
Yeah.
are benefiting. Everybody is benefiting except the families who are supporting the people who are incarcerated, right? So it's not necessarily just about the prison. It's about this entire system in and of itself that's benefiting off of, slave labor in a sense. And so, go ahead. I want you to finish your thought, but I just wanted to just
that's why I
interject
just
that.
wonder, with all of that you said, I wonder if there's any benefit to them actually creating some type of reform to that system.
Look, there's a huge public safety benefit, right? Because right now we're spending billions and billions of dollars on a system that's failing 60, 70% of the time.
$80 billion
because
annually.
People are going into prisons and jails. And like you said, they're just coming right back out and they haven't gotten the help they need. And a lot of them end up falling down again, right? So the benefit is a public safety benefit. We're all going to be safer and our communities are going to be stronger if everybody is doing well and succeeding versus ending up in this crazy vicious cycle.
Now, they said they were going to close Rikers Island by 2026. Does that look like it's going to happen, actually? Because, I think somebody just died recently and their family suing for $20 million. Are they really looking like they're going to close some of these prisons?
Jessica's the attorney.
Well, we haven't been in, that big fight to close Rikers, actually, that was led by Just Leadership and Glenn Martin and others. That actually happened before Reform Alliance came into
Gotcha.
effect. So we haven't been involved in that. But I will say, prison and jail conditions across the country, particularly Rikers, particularly Parchman, are absolutely disgusting. So we talk about, recidivism. We talk about safety of our communities. How can you come home and be okay when you've been traumatized and treated with such indignity as having, rats eating the food that you bought on commissary, not being able to get the medical help you need, let alone the mental health help that you probably need, having those overcrowded conditions, having sewage coming up in your cell. It's just disgusting and undignified. And yes, people are dying and it's traumatic and we're making people worse.
Now, how can people support? If they want to support, they want to donate, they want to put their foot in. Maybe they can't run in the front line with you guys, but say they still want to support somehow, some way. How can they do that?
Yeah, you can simply follow us on any social media platform at Reform. You can text the word Reform to 81411. We don't want your money. You can keep your money. What we want is your action. We want people to tweet. We want people to call their elected officials. We want people to be connected with us. We want to be able to help the people who are helping the people who need the help, period. And how we are able to do that is by being able to stay connected with folks who are justice impacted, family members who are supporting people who are justice impacted, and people who are just on the periphery who just want to get involved, period. Let me also circle back to something else that Jessica was remiss not to mention. The First Step Act. When we went into the White House, and everyone else said that we shouldn't have gone into that White House, we walked out to date with more than 25,000 people released from federal prison.
Wow.
25,000 people released from federal prison. 94%, Jessica can correct me on the stats, but 94% of the people who got released under crack cocaine provision alone happen to be blacks.
Wow.
African Americans.
So what's the next move that you guys are attacking to make sure that you get people out? Is there a particular one, like that was the crack cocaine? So what's the next thing that you guys are attacking?
I hope it's mental health.
Well, we still got a lot of work. I mean, that's built into everything we do. Our policy framework, we want to address parole, probation. We want to, decrease the amount of time that people are incarcerated for these offenses. But at the end of the day, it is wellness. It is making sure that people have a pathway to well-being, and that includes mental health. But I will say, we are continuing to work in the states, primarily in red states where there's so many issues in the system, so many people who are caught up. And then we're also going to be addressing the federal system. There's 128,000 people who are on federal supervision. They've got mandatory revocations. So your probation officer, your supervision officer doesn't even have discretion over whether or not they violate you. You're ending up back inside. We've got folks who walked their dog too far, folks who took the trash out in their apartment to the trash compactor, but that was outside their ankle monitor. We've got folks who missed a meeting with a probation officer or lost their job, end up right back in. So that's the big news. That's what's coming is we are going to be looking at the federal system and working on addressing supervision there.
Okay. Charlamagne, just to address the issue about mental health.
Yeah, because I saw your post on the reform page. I wanted you to expound on that.
Yeah. So we actually recently partnered with BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online virtual therapy platform where we're trying to get people who have been, suffering from or experiencing what I call the new PTSD, prison traumatic stress disorder. We're trying to connect them with resources, right? There's a stigma automatically around Black men, especially being in therapy. I got a great therapist who I keep on speed dial. Just FYI. We're trying to reduce the stigma of people just haven't been in the system. How do you decompress from that? How do you actually show up as a human being when everything around you and about you that you've experienced while you were incarcerated indicated that you were less than? You were a number. They didn't even call you by your last name, right? Like they treated you less than who you were as a person. So we are trying to connect people with those resources, and through our relationship and through our partnerships with BetterHelp, we think that we are going to be on a good path in order to create that well-being that Jessica was talking about.
What was the correction for you, Louis? Like, you did 14 years. Like, when you came home, like, what made you a better person? It wasn't about.
I was a better person when I was incarcerated. It didn't take me to come home to be a better person. That's the thing about it, right? And it was one of three things. Number one, unapologetically, I'm a believer. I'm unapologetically a Christian. The second thing is that I had an education passport that opened up in my mind. That allowed me to get a little bit of the education, right? And the third thing is that I saw too many Black, brown, and poor white folks locked up. And I wanted to do something about it. So I started organizing and advocating while I was incarcerated. I can't tell you how many times I went to solitary confinement for protesting about the commissary prices. You charging us 20 cents for a honey bun, and now you're going up to 30 cents, but there was no cost of living adjustment, right? So I started my advocacy while I was incarcerated, and it was just a continuation when I came home. Charlamagne, you're supposed to silence your phone, man.
I know.
But so it was just a continuation of everything that I was doing when I was incarcerated when I came home. And when I came home, I springboarded my career as a social worker, became licensed as a clinician in the state of Connecticut. I took the state of Connecticut to task because they arbitrarily denied people with felony convictions from having a licensure and or professional certification. So everything that I'm doing now wasn't necessarily a matter of like being better once I got home. That process actually started for me from the inside out, not from the outside in.
We appreciate you guys for joining us.
One more thing. What do you think the biggest obstacle is facing Black and brown communities?
It's poverty. I think that we are applying a criminal solution to social issues.
Yes.
And when you think about the things that plague us as a community, right? And this is a conversation for another day. I really think that one of the worst things that happened to us was crack cocaine. Me having, experienced, criminal enterprising during that time period, I think that was the worst thing that happened to us. And I think that we're still experiencing a residual effect. But for the most part, what happened at that time was a matter of poverty. All of us was trying to climb out of somewhere. All of us was trying to climb out of the bottom of the barrel. You got a cousin, you got a man's in them, I got cousins, right, that experience what that was like in order to try to climb out of that space of just degradation and just melancholy. So I think that's what our number one driver is for everything that we do and the things that plague us. It's a matter of poverty.
So with that said, are y'all going to be there for people who
PPP?
get thrown under jail for PPP loans?
Y'all laughing. Y'all gotta have a lot of people with the PPP.
Y'all going to get a lot of emails about those folks.
I'm going to defer to my counsel on that.
Look, I started my career representing people on death row. So the system is broken. No matter what you did, you need to have a fair trial, and we need to be dealing with this stuff differently. So yeah, we're there for everybody.
I wouldn't be there for them. You gotta be there. They knew what they were getting into. That's different.
No, it's not.
That's a little different. Like you knew what you was getting into with these fraudulent PPP loans, man.
They made a mistake.
That is
Let me say this: nobody, no one is beyond redemption.
There you go.
Oh, I agree with that.
No one
Absolutely.
is beyond redemption.
I agree with that. That is interesting though, because sometimes I'll hit Jessica about things, and I'll be like, I don't even know if I should be reaching out to her about this case, or you know what I mean? Because I don't know.
Everybody reaches out to Jessica about
That's
something.
my point, but I just don't know what is what sometimes. You know what I mean? Somebody asked me to look out. I'm like, all right, well, I'll shoot the email. I don't know what.
If it's not something I can work on, I can find you the right person.
But I also want to say this as well. While we're on the subject about Jessica, Jessica's too modest to brag on herself. But I'll do this. I was thinking about Jessica today as I was coming up here, and I was thinking about something I just watched on social media around. I think it was T.O. How he had been Karen.
Terrell Owens, huh?
Yeah, Terrell Owens. And when I think about someone like Jessica, right? Jessica being a white woman with blonde hair, working in this space, who could be doing anything else with her intelligence, with her experience, etc. She's choosing to fight on behalf of people whose voices are diminished based off of excessive sentences.
That's real.
We need every white woman in this world to be what Jessica is, and not necessarily what the Karens are of this world. So I just wanted to just lift it, Jessica, in that moment.
No Karen, less Karen, more Jessica.
Yeah.
How many people have y'all been responsible for getting home? 25,000, you said?
No, 650,000. We created
Of a probation and parole. We've created a pathway for 650,000, and then at Cut 50, where Lewis and I were previously, it was over 70,000 people we helped get out from behind bars.
Wow.
How important is celebrity activism?
Listen, it's huge because you have people. The way it works is you've got legislators that only care what their voters think, right? And their donors. But if they're voters, who, by the way, are not people inside of prisons and jails, and not people who have felony convictions in a lot of states, their voters don't necessarily care about this issue. They buy into that whole prison and jail is a place for bad people, and bad people are there, so I'm safer kind of complex. So you got to make them care about it. When they see a Jay-Z, when they see a Meek Mill, when they see a Kim Kardashian,
when they see a Charlamagne
out there, when they see a Charlamagne out there talking about this issue, they get interested, especially as you're telling stories of people who have been impacted, right? And you tell a story of an Alice Johnson, or you tell a story of a Dante Mitchell, or any of these incredible stories that just show and illustrate how broken the system is and how fundamentally unfair it is. People start getting interested in the issue. I can't tell you how many people I have met that didn't care about this till they saw it on Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
That's right.
Right? And suddenly they care because they're making calls to their legislators, right? They're signing petitions. This is the cool thing to do. They're sharing content, and they're opening people's eyes and diminishing that stigma.
Wow. I think the next thing everybody should collectively come together to do is really push President Biden to do mass clemency for, people who are locked up for nonviolent federal marijuana-only offenses. Those people should be home.
Absolutely.
You heard it here first.
All right. Well, Jessica Jackson, Lewis Reed, we appreciate you guys for joining us.
Thanks so much. Appreciate
Thank
you, bro.
you.
And anytime you guys want to come on up, come on up.
Thank you.
All right. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.